Jumping aboard is Mr. Sal Capaccio. Jeremy and Joe, good morning. Happy Monday. Recapping the Bills. Loss to the Giants, 34-25. Quarterback 2 battle, wide receiver room, defensive performance overall. Taking an updated look at the depth chart. You know, arrow up, arrow down. The things we do on the Buffalo Bills football Monday. Even if it's the preseason, we'll get warmed up ourselves. So, good morning, Sal. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Doing great. It was a hot, long weekend, but a good weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a hot day today and tomorrow. It's hot all the time these days.
Yeah, I'll be headed out to play in the I'll be headed out to play in the Jim Kelly golf event today, and it's going to be very toasty out there today, no doubt about it. But always a good cause, but always a good time.
Well, Sal, let's get to what happened on Saturday at the stadium. Hot day. Great day, though. Huge crowd. I mean, maybe there have been other crowds that big before, and I hadn't taken notice. Maybe it's the final year of Highmark that makes me take notice. But Joe and I, during the week, had pointed out how tickets were not the usual $5 to $7 on the secondary market. It was hard to get a ticket to this, and it looked to me like a completely full stadium.
It did to me as well, and it was the final ever preseason game inside this stadium. Plus, you know, it's only one home game, so it's the only Kids' Day game of the preseason. Sometimes you have 2 home games every other year now, so you get one game that's not, one game that is. So I think everybody, all that coming together, and then, you know, you had a great weather day, of course. Everybody knew it was going to be a great weather day leading up to it. Yes, it was very hot weather, but, you know, no precipitation. And I just think all that added in was, hey, let's go see our Buffalo Bills. Let's bring somebody maybe who's never been to the stadium, or maybe the only time they'll ever get a chance to go to the stadium. I think about that a lot. I think about kids who, you know, a lot of times their parents don't want to take them to a regular season game, or they never can go because their schedules just don't match up. Price point, whatever it is, there's just people who can't go, and maybe that's their only time. And maybe this was the only time they ever go. And then what happens, you know, let's say that kid is, 7, 8 years old. They don't really totally remember it, or even younger. 20 years from now, you're sitting in the new stadium and you're like, mom and dad say, you know, 20 years ago, you went to the old stadium and sat and went to that game. I just think that's kind of cool to think about right now.
You posted a picture of the new stadium kind of peeking over the corner as you stood on the field at the current stadium. And before we get to the game, like one last thing on stadium talk, I thought being there on Saturday that one of the stars of the day was the new stadium, because I hadn't seen it in a month or so, or maybe a little bit more than that. And, you know, the exterior's starting to go up. You kind of get a real feel for what it looks like. And it's just impossible not to just stare at it, and I can't wait to see what it ultimately ends up looking like.
No doubt. And I think you guys have seen a lot of the panels that are going in now on the outside, right? And you can kind of see things really coming together. And every time you see it more and more is coming together. And a lot of the glass that's going in, and then the panels, it just gets bigger and bigger. And, you know, I had been down there a few times, but it had been a while since I was last before that. And then you said you hadn't seen it in a while. And I'm sure some people yesterday either saw it for the first time, or maybe haven't seen it in 6 months or maybe a year. And you're like, holy cow, this thing's coming together. So it's going to be like that every single week. And also, by the time I got out of there, it was a little bit later, but it didn't seem like traffic was too bad. But I know that we're all going to have to be a little patient this year with a lot of things that are going on with the traffic. But I think they did a good job this weekend.
Next time we all get to Highmark, it'll be for the Ravens game to open up on Sunday night. Before that, of course, 2 more preseason games, some joint practices in Chicago. But let's recap this first game, Sal. The Bills fall to the Giants, and we'll start with the quarterback conversation, because that battle to I think a lot of people is a real one. Mitchell Trubisky and Mike White. And while the offense might have had a bit of a slow start, a couple of mistakes along the way, both quarterbacks, I think, did just fine for what they did out there.
Agreed. I didn't include either of them in my arrow up or arrow down, because I didn't think that either of them had a spectacular day, but I don't think either of them did anything to necessarily hurt themselves. They were hurt by other things around them more than they were themselves, to be quite honest, guys. They were hurt by drop passes. They were hurt by lack of protection. They were just hurt by an overall, you know, lack of efficiency with the offense when they were out there at times, but they also made plays. Each of them made plays. Of course, you know, Mike White had a really nice touchdown pass to KJ Hamler, and Mitch Trubisky had a really nice pass down the field to Tyrell Shavers. You look at it, it's 9 of 13 for 138 and a touchdown. 8 of 13 for 112 and 2 touchdowns. How do you separate them? That's for the coaches to go back and watch the film. Now, look, I'm not a quarterback rating guy necessarily, but just to give you an example, One rating was 129.6, the other was 128.8, right? I mean, those are good ratings. Even Shane Buechele was close to 100 ratings. So I thought the quarterbacks did okay. I do think Mitch Trubisky had a bit of an advantage because he played with the first team offense for the majority for several times he was in there, a few series, I should say. Whereas Mike White didn't get that opportunity. Now, of course, there was some substituting with Trubisky in there a little bit later, but maybe we'll see how Sean McDermott wants to play it this week. Does Mike White get more of an opportunity? I think Mike White kind of has to beat out Trubisky here because it feels like Trubisky's been the guy that's been there. They're comfortable with him. He does offer a little bit more mobility. But I made mention on the broadcast, and I don't know if you guys agree, but it was funny because I saw Jameis Winston on the other side, and I said, Mike White feels to me a little bit like Jameis Winston, whereas your floor, you might get a throw or two, you're like, oh man, what is that? And then you might get a couple really wow throws. I mean, that's just what Mike White can bring you sometimes. Whereas Mitch Trubisky is more of the higher floor, but he doesn't have as high of a ceiling, I think, on those throws.
Yeah.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. Trubisky also had to go up against Abdul Carter, which maybe wasn't the best advantage.
Yeah.
Because that dude looks amazing. Quickly, before we get into more of the Bills, Sal, how did any of the Giants stand out? Jackson Dart made a really nice throw in that touchdown. He was about to get smoked by TJ Sanders. Carter, what stood out from the Giants to you?
Yeah, I think Jackson Dart had a nice day. Really nice debut for a rookie in his first preseason game. I think that throw that he made to Lil Jordan Humphrey down the sidelines was an excellent throw. Now, look, I gave Dane Jackson an arrow down. I thought he should have been in a little better position there to get beat on that play, especially on a 3rd and long situation. But I thought that he looked really, really good. And they didn't have their full complement of defensive linemen in front seven, but they still did a really nice job up front. But again, Bills have to be better there. That's your starting offensive line. I didn't think the Bills' starting offensive line particularly played their best football. They're not game planning. I totally understand that. We have to take all of this into context. But just in a vacuum, one-on-one, if you go down the line and look, Deion Dawkins gets beat once. I see David Edwards get beat once. Like, these are things that you see that you say have to kind of clean up as you get closer to the regular season.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. Let's get to running backs, tight ends, receivers, and how things went. Tyrell Shavers, Sal, ends up being a bit of a star of the day. 2 catches, 70 yards. And, we're in a second straight year of him doing, I think, what he's supposed to do during training camp and during the preseason. Sean McDermott earlier last week referred to him as a true Buffalo Bill. Do you think that the road to get him on the roster is difficult, or has he done enough where you think he might make it? Because the numbers crunch in the receiver room, Joe and I kind of talked about it, like who ends up odd man out? If, in fact, one of the three, I'd imagine it's Moore, Shavers, Samuel, if one of the three doesn't make the roster.
Well, first, Curtis Samuel has to get on the field, right? I mean, that's the first step. And then it becomes more of a conversation because right now, if he's not going to get on the field, I think that door is a little bit more open. Once Curtis Samuel's on the field, then we start talking about the finances of it and things like that, because I think that they would love to have Curtis Samuel on this team, but I don't think it's a guarantee if Tyrell Shavers continues to play the way he has, or even KJ Hamler or anybody else, Christian Wilkerson. Like, is it a guarantee? I've always felt that they're not going to move off Curtis Samuel because of the financials, but I mean, they could eat the money. They've eaten money before on players. They could do that, but they got to get him on the field. Elijah Moore didn't have a stat in this game, but you guys have seen there's a viral clip of him running free across the middle, and Trubisky misses him, right? He does a good job at the line of scrimmage, to beat his guy, right? So when you see the stat sheet and you're like, okay, nothing happened there. This guy, like, is he going to bring anything to the table? That's different than going back and watching the film and saying, did he win his rep? Did he win right here? He did everything he was supposed to do. Tyrell Shavers, though, is in a spot where I just don't know if they're going to want to keep 6 receivers. If they do, yes, I think he's the guy next in line. If they don't, I just have to find the guy that he would be kept over. Now, that could be impacted by what happens on special teams if they could wind up using them. But that brings into play, guys, I think I said to you last week, I know I said to Bulldog, and then it kind of came to fruition this weekend, which is I think Laviska Shenault's making a hard charge here. Right? Laviska Shenault is showing that he can contribute on special teams, obviously, as a kick returner. They had him return a punt in this game. He's never returned a punt in a college or NFL regular season game. What does that tell you? They want to make sure, hey, can he do this for us? Because I think they like him on offense, too. They threw him a ball. He caught it. He threw him a 2-point conversion, really nice catch with his hands. So I think Laviska Shenault factors into all of this. This is a really interesting kind of situation. It's not a bad problem to have, of course, right? You want to have guys fighting for spots. I don't think it's about Tyrell Shavers specifically. I think it's about everybody else around him as well.
Do you think, Sal, it's unrealistic to think the Bills would almost like trade something with Samuel away to clear cap space? Because cutting him just seems like such a tough pill to swallow. You don't save anything by doing that, but it's $7 million if you can trade him. Does that seem like something you think the Bills would even entertain? It would look bad even signing him last year and having to do that. So maybe that would prevent them from doing it. There's IR options probably. Like what do you think happens with Samuel if he cannot get on the field?
I don't think they would care about how it would look if they felt that they could do it. Would they entertain it? I think sure, if the price was right, I think the question, Joe, is who's going to take on his $6.9 million base salary?
Right.
Yeah, you trade him to a team, they got to pay him $7 million. So, like, is another team going to do that for Curtis Samuel? So I think there's a world that it could happen. I just don't know if you could find a willing party on the other end to be able to do that. Again, the first step here for me, guys, Curtis Samuel needs to get on the field. The two guys I think are really important to get on the field this week, aside from James Cook, obviously we can talk about, but injury-wise, the two most important guys that we need to start seeing on the field are Curtis Samuel and Cole Bishop. Those guys got to start playing because for two different reasons. Now, for Cole Bishop, it's a whole rookie season that was impacted because he was out last year, and now he's out again this year at the same time of year. And for Curtis Samuel, it's everything you just talked about. There's a numbers crunch at receiver. You have finance. You have money invested in him. He's supposed to be a part of your offense. What does that look like? So I think Sean McDermott said after the game, like if you listen to his post game, he was kind of giving indication to everybody. Listen, it's go time. Like we got to get our bodies right. We got to get on the field. He said, "I'm excited." Excited might have been the word. I got to go back and listen. Like to see who's coming back this week. And I think this is a big week leading into preseason game number 2 because in preseason game number 3, you're playing mostly your real, deep reserves. These guys got to get on the field this week so they can go to Chicago. They can be involved in joint practices. They can get on the field for their second preseason game. This might be it for a lot of these guys to actually show what they are a part of as far as this team is concerned.
Sal, on the defense, and one of your arrow ups was Joe Andreessen at linebacker, who I just feel like every time he's out there in the preseason or training camp, like I don't know that we've ever heard really a negative storyline about Andreessen. It just feels like anytime he gets a chance, no matter what environment it is, he does well. And you would say Saturday was another one of those?
Yeah, Sean McDermott told us this week, he said, I'm a big fan of Joe's. He's just a football player. That's exactly what he said. And I agree. He is a football player, and how could you not be a fan of his? He just shows up to work every day. He's a lunch pail guy. We know his story, right? His story is well chronicled. From Buffalo, Lancaster High School, University at Buffalo. He went to Bryant to play college before that. This guy's never been given anything. He actually had a couple of looks before, even going to the Bills. I believe he went to the tryout for the rookie tryout for the Chiefs, and they didn't give him a shot, and the Bills did. And then they said, okay, we'll give you a shot. And he actually makes the roster. And now Joe, he is clearly, I think he already would have been the guy backing up Terrell Bernard. Although, notably, Balen Spector was not having a bad camp until he got hurt again. But it was always the availability issue of Balen Spector. Now Balen Spector's not available. He's not going to be on the team this year. He went on IR. He reverted back to the Bills, by the way. But he is on IR, so they can't use him this year. I think Joe Andreessen showed exactly what Joe Andreessen showed since last year, and even more so of it, which is incredible instincts to know how to get to a football. Great tackling ability. The thing that I noticed about Joe in the OTAs and minicamp, and it's showing up in preseason again, is he diagnoses passes very, very well. He sees something happening, knows where to get to that guy who's going to get that pass. I saw him get beat once pretty cleanly in a swing pass at training camp, but that was really the only time. Usually he knows, and I'm not talking running with guys down the field, guys. I'm talking about going straight ahead, seeing something develop out of the backfield and saying, that's my guy to get there. Because we already know that the run instincts are there and the tackling ability is there. And I think the Bills are in very, very good hands at their backup middle linebacker spot and even their backup weak side linebacker spot with Dorian Williams, even though he's just coming back from injury, because we saw that he can make plays last year. With Milano and Bernard, if they can get healthy together, I think the Bills have a very, very stable and consistent foursome at linebacker if they need to turn to any of those guys.
Sal Capaccio on the West Her Hotline. Defensively, a lot of new faces. Michael Hoyt, Sal, let's get there. I mean, I thought he made an impression. The way that he's kind of all around the field, all around the ball, made a couple of plays, and I don't know if it's possible to have liked the player's energy in the first ever preseason game. He's their first signing of the offseason, and here the first action I'm seeing him as a Bill. I get the feeling he's going to be well liked just because of the way that he seems to play.
Oh yeah, and I think Sean McDermott loves to see that energy too. No doubt, he talks about it a lot. Talks about bringing the energy and having the energy when you play football, and he loves guys like that. And I think he's going to be a fan favorite. Excuse me, once he steps on the field after his suspension, is up in six games. The only question about Michael Hoyt is how they're going to deploy him. And we're going to have to, we don't know that from watching one game. In this game, it's like, okay, he's on the field, he's making his presence felt. When it's game number 9 or 10, and you're like, oh, now he's lined up on left end. Now he's lined up at linebacker. He's standing up. He's got his hand on the ground. Oh, they're standing him up inside in the interior. Like, what are they doing with him? That's the question about Michael Hoyt. Michael Hoyt can play football. He's a football player. Much like Joe Andreessen, he's just a football player. This guy brings energy. He knows how to play defense. He understands the game. Literally, this is going to be about X's and O's when it comes down to Michael Hoyt and how Bobby Babbage and Sean McDermott decide to use him and what impact he can make.
At the same position, no real sign of Landon Jackson doing much,
No.
Sal. Like at some point, I feel like fans are going to want to hear his name.
Sure, and I gave him an arrow down because I didn't think that he had a particularly good game. But look at me, it's his first game, in an NFL uniform, and you'd like to see it gone better. He didn't make an impact on the stat sheet. He had nothing recorded at all, but that wasn't the biggest reason. The other one was also making a mistake, lining up offsides, negating an interception from his rookie draft classmate, Jordan Hancock. We talked to Landon after the game. He owned up to it. He knows that. He's accountable. He said, hey, that's on me, and that's a learning. I can't do that. I lined up wrong. He said he based his alignment, I think, on the player and not the ball or something like that, he said. And, those are things that he's going to have to work through. So, good learning experience for him. I think this week's a big week for Landon Jackson, a guy that can go against another team, get a little bit more under his belt, some reps right there. And, this rookie D-line class, I think they'll be just fine. I think what we saw from T.J. Sanders and Deion Walker was very good, but I think Landon Jackson has a little ways to go here, but we'll see him kind of grow the next couple weeks, hopefully.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. We didn't get to James Cook yet, so Sean McDermott revealed the conversation that they had. Cook dressed, did not play. McDermott said he wanted him to play, Sal. We're stretching into another week here of the James Cook saga. It really is only a week old, right? It was last week, Sunday, where he decided he was going to hold in. So here we are, week 2, and no end really in sight.
And we don't know what's going to happen. There's no media today, no practice media today. Tomorrow's their practice where we'll find out and we'll see. And media will be on hand. We can report on, if we see James Cook or not out there. I really don't know. Based on that conversation, I don't know if the Bills know, to be quite honest with you. What is he going to do each day? I mean, think about when Sean McDermott said before practice last week that he thought it was possible that, James could play in practice. And then in this particular game, he warmed up. He was in uniform. He warmed up. So did some other guys, by the way, who were injured but not playing. But James obviously not injured. He also took, now I didn't see this, but my colleague Matt Bove, and it's always Game Day in Buffalo, noticed he took a rep in the very light 11-on-11 practice portion of warm-ups. You know what I mean? When they just kind of go offense against defense and nobody's really hitting each other. He actually took a rep in that. So he warmed up. He just didn't play. And yes, referring to Sean McDermott's conversation, he said him and James had a very good conversation. He wanted James to play, but James decided that wasn't what was going to happen. So we move on to this week, and we'll see where this goes, guys. But I go back to what Sean even said about the injuries that I referenced, which is, hey, this is go time. We need to get guys on the field. Yeah. I think that includes James Cook, right? I mean, like, where is this? What's happening? They can't just – I think – let's say you just had concrete information, right? That's better sometimes. And I know, I wouldn't say better if he's not playing, but the not knowing also is tough. It's not knowing. If the organization doesn't know what James Cook is doing on a daily basis, they don't know what his plan is for the week. That makes it tough on everybody to plan. It makes it tough on Sean McDermott to plan practice. It makes it tough on Kelly Skipper to plan reps, right? So I think you're caught in a space here where you want him on the field and you respect the fact that he's got business to take care of. You still want him on the field. But if you don't know what's happening, that makes it even worse in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And they didn't, Sal, one of your arrows down was the offensive line not establishing the line of scrimmage. They didn't really run the ball much at all in this game. So I think they wanted to get a look at their quarterbacks. So it's not as if, Ray Davis got any sort of trial to do that, to see what he could do. He did not run the ball particularly well. So I don't know. A question I like to ask is, did James Cook have a good Saturday? And I don't know that anything could have been gained from it, but it's not like the Bills were out there trying to audition his replacements, despite Ty Johnson and Frank Gore having some nice plays. And Darrington Evans had a touchdown too.
Yeah, Ty Johnson, he just does what Ty Johnson does. He gets the ball in his hands and he makes a play here and a play there, and suddenly you look up and he's like, oh, he's 50 yards rushing or whatever, right? It's just kind of what he does. And he seems to be around the ball and does well with the ball in his hands, whether that's out of the backfield or in his hands. And then what a great job Frank Gore did. And he is just making a case that, hey, if this thing bleeds into the regular season, and hopefully not, if the Bills keep 3 running backs, I think Frank Gore Jr. is right there knocking on the door, to be on the NFL roster. He did get that call last year when James Cook was out. Remember that, against the New York Jets. Ray Davis got the start. Ty Johnson played. Frank Gore Jr. was on the squad that night in New York. So, yeah, he did a really good job there. But let's not forget, Ray Davis did get a trial at kicker, and he kicked the extra point, which was great.
Yes. I was ready to let him kick the rest of the day. And it's funny, in the second half, or whenever Caden Davis went out to kick that first kick, Sal, we had left to go home and watch the rest of the game because it was so hot at the stadium. It was very hot there. And as I'm listening to Chris Brown make the call, Davis's kick is up and it's good, I think, oh man, they gave Ray Davis another crack at this thing, but it was Caden Davis, which whatever. That's good. They want to get him some reps too, because the Tyler Bass injury, maybe this week that's where things start to turn because of the pelvis soreness. So when McDermott references getting a few players back, it'd be nice to know that Tyler Bass is one of them, if in fact he is one of them.
I agree with that, and Sean explained it very well, I thought, after the game, which is, look, you have to have a plan if something happens during a game. You're not carrying 2 kickers. Okay, so 2 different scenarios. Scenario number 1 is Tyler Bass is injured for a week. He's not going to kick. You have a kicker, Caden Davis. You sign him. He's on the roster, right? You bring him up from a practice squad. You don't have to use a roster spot. Scenario number 2 is this happened against the Bills a couple of years ago. A kicker gets hurt in warmups. That happened against the Carolina Panthers a couple of years ago. They had no kicker. He got hurt in warmups. What do? You can't call up a guy. You can't sign a guy. Well, guess what? Here's Ray Davis, our emergency kicker. That's what Saturday was about for Ray Davis.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Hurt in warmups or hurt during a game, I've got to know, do I have a guy on my team right now that we're 37 yards away, 4th and 7? Do I have any shot here? And, you might not. Again, it's a backup plan. It's kind of a break glass in case of emergency plan, but I don't mind it. Quickly, Sal.
By the way, real quick, Ray Davis told us after the game he's been trying to convince college coaches and NFL coaches for 7 years to let him do this, and Sean McDermott finally did. Yeah.
And one last thing, we didn't get this far in. Injuries, Taron Johnson left the game, was cleared for concussion protocol. Anything else regarding injuries?
Yeah, Daquan Hardy left the game, had his shoulder x-rayed. He was doubtful to return. He did not return, so that's the one we'll be watching this week. And then, Taron Johnson was the other one. Somebody else went in the medical tent. I can't remember, but he came out and he was cleared as well. Oh, yeah, it was the hand laceration. Who had the hand laceration? I can't remember watching on the bench, but he was fine. But, Taron Johnson will be fine. Daquan Hardy's the one injury that, we'll be noting from this game, and I think anything bleeds into the week.
And then what is the schedule? Is the whole week of practice with the Bears, or is it just a couple days?
1 day of practice.
It's only 1 day, okay.
The team will practice this week, travel Thursday to Chicago, joint practice Friday with the Bears. Still not sure exactly what that looks like. We'll find out later. Off day Saturday, game Sunday in Chicago against the Bears.
All right. We'll find out if maybe Josh Allen's going to play, or if they do what they did in previous joint practice sessions where they just get him out there in controlled environments and then say no thanks to the regular season, to the
Well, let's remember,
game.
Though, last year, guys, just so you know, last year against the Steelers, first of all, those joint practices, you can't hit the quarterback, so it is a great chance to give Josh a lot of work. But he was going to play against the Steelers that week, but a lot of rain hit the field right beforehand. It got really wet, and they decided to hold him out.
Right. Hey, that rain might have saved the season, you never know. Let's learn that lesson, that it worked really well last year against the Steelers. Hope for rain in Chicago, or hope for just, hey, he had a good practice, and he doesn't need to play against the Bears. That's what I would go for. Thank you, Sal.
You got it, guys.
Sal Capaccio, the Northtown Automotive Extra Point Show coming up 10 o'clock today as we wrap up the Bills and Giants preseason game number 1. We got a lot of people firing away in the YouTube chat. Love to have you there. Thanks. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. You can always watch us on YouTube, where you can see our faces if that's the kind of thing that you maybe want. Anyway, give us a call.
If you want to listen on your TVs.
True. Listen on your TV or just, working on the phone. Also, give us a ring, 803-0550. Who are you left talking about, thinking about from Saturday's game